So I see our long-term friend and colleague Mehmet ÖİTÇÜ on screen, joining us from Turkey, I believe. Fantastic, Mehmet. Okay, everybody. So now we move along into the first thematic panel of the conference. And the first thematic panel of the conference, as you've already seen on the agenda, is really all about renewable energy investment in Central Asia at the regional level. So it's about regional level investment, regional level cooperation. And I will introduce our speakers one by one. I will ask the speakers to try to stick to a time frame, if possible, because we have a lot of people through this beautiful technology, virtual people joining us online. We have, access to a lot of people coming into the event. So first, I would like to invite Mr. Mehmet ÖİTÇÜ, who is senior advisor to the Brussels Energy Club. But I think many of you will know Mehmet. He's very well-known personality in the world of Eurasian energy as a long-serving diplomat, initially with the Turkish diplomatic corps, and then, of course, with OECD organizations such as the IEA, and then in the private sector. He worked in Central Asia quite a lot with BG Group. And Mehmet is currently an author, an investor, a speaker at many events. So Mehmet, I would like to invite you to maybe do a short scene-setting intervention to set the scene for us about Central Asia, how it is positioned between wider sort of powers in the world of energy, and what perspectives you see for the development of the renewable energy sector in the region. Mehmet, please, 5-6 minutes. The floor is yours. Sound. Yeah.
Thank you, Marat,
okay,
for the
now we have sound.
Yes, thank you for the invitation. I'm delighted to join this event, and this is a very timely one because Central Asia is more or less lost in the bigger energy geopolitical game for some time, and now you are bringing together key players from the region as well as stakeholders all around the world. Therefore, it's very timely. I hope that the conclusions will lead us to somewhere step by step. And I'm aware of the time constraint, therefore I won't speak longer than 2.5 hours. And to set the scene, just some sound bites for you, some headlines perhaps. Number one is Central Asia, when you look at it, especially geopolitically and energy-wise, it's sitting between China, the next superpower, and Europe. It's also a neighbor to Russia and India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, and through Caucasia to Turkey as well. Therefore, it's a strategically very, very important region. And the changes that are taking place in the world today are dizzying, especially in the field of economy. We are leading towards some sort of recession, and geopolitically tensions are increasing, not only in the case of Russia-Ukraine war, but also between China and the United States, also Indian subcontinent, and beyond that, the Caucasia. Therefore, there is a need to re-recognize what Central Asia is about, geopolitically, economically, as well as energy-wise. And therefore, this conference, I think, is going to be a small contribution to that. And energy-wise, there is no problem about energy supply. So it has abundance of fossil fuels. Then Ukraine and some of the rare earth materials as well, critical for renewable energy and newest technologies. But the problem is that fossil fuels dominates, except perhaps Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan, as we heard from the ambassadors, dominates the energy scene. In some countries, almost to the tune of 95%. But the world, of course, is also full of fossil fuels. 77% of the world energy mix is fossil fuels, but in Central Asia, it's much more than that. In terms of carbon emissions, by world standards, I don't think that Central Asia is going to cause huge problems because it's only 1% of the global carbon emissions. And the population-wise, Uzbek ambassador said we are almost half of Central Asia, so this brings it to almost 77, 78 million people, over 4 million kilometers of land. So it's a huge country, continent, almost in itself, and renewables chances are not great for a number of reasons. Although the potential is there for solar, for wind power, for hydropower, especially in Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, which uses a little percentage of what their potential holds. Therefore, if the right policies are put in place, if financial resources are mobilized, because Central Asia cannot do it on its own, and there is a huge prospect for renewables to take a larger share in energy mix. Uzbekistan aims for almost 25% by 2030, Kazakhstan 10% and of renewable, but it is going to be a conflict somehow between fossil fuels, where they have competitive strengths, and the renewables, where you need huge investment to come. If these two conflicts could be brought to convergence, there is a good prospect in Central Asia to increase the share of renewables. Not only renewables, but also you need to modernize the aging grid, electricity grid, left from the Soviet era. Then also regulatory system must be more open and transparent. And corruption is huge in many countries in the region, whether we like it or not. And therefore, I think, well, it's not only limited to Central Asia, of course, the rest of the world, we face similar problems. And so the dichotomy between fossil fuels and renewables requires a massive shift away from fossil fuels towards low carbon, sustainable energy sources. It's said easier than done, of course, and there are many organizations working on that. But I think one of the clear path to success in Central Asia is to perhaps mobilize regional integration and cooperation on better terms. We've been talking about this for ages, but it doesn't happen. And also bring more and more international investors. For example, one of the world's largest groups in Saudi Arabia is now in Uzbekistan, investing heavily on renewables. The same way Kazakhstan. So there's a long way to go for Turkmenistan as well. The resources are there, but it's a matter of how to tap them. Now, European Union, US, China, India, Russia, Japan, all of them perhaps could be somehow brought in to this region, which is not significant only on energy, but on geopolitical matters as well. So Central Asian leaders should start first among themselves and to achieve greater regional integration and inspire trust among the investors so that Central Asia will be able to fulfill its long-term goal of low carbon economy by 2060. And I'll stop here. I'm sure there will be questions if left from interventions, but I wish you all the success, and I hope that these discussions will lead to some tangible results that we will follow up later on. Thank you, Marat.
Mehmet Bey, thank you for that really provocative and inspiring, I think, scene-setting intervention, which indeed, as Ambassador Hakala was saying earlier, the challenges are certainly substantial. So let's continue now. We have a slight adjustment in the program. Jaslan Kasenov, who was joining us online from Kazakhstan, from the Ministry of Energy, has just peeled off the conference, and we would now like to invite Mr. Nurlan Kapenov, in fact, to fill that space, given that Mr. Kapenov actually traveled from the region to join us in person, which I think is something that we all have to really honor and respect. It's, you know, with technology, very easy to join online, of course, but Mr. Kapenov wanted to actually be here with us personally. He's someone who is deeply, I think, involved and engaged in the entire evolution of the renewable energy sector, I think, in Kazakhstan specifically, but in Central Asia more broadly, having already an inspiring career in the energy sector, but moving into the alternative energy sphere. But now you're, Mr. Kapenov, the chair of Kazakh Green Association. So maybe with an initial intervention of say 5, 6, 7 minutes, and I believe you have a presentation on the screen, you can share with us some of your thoughts about the development of alternative energy in Central Asia and the prospects for its further evolution. Please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Marat. Dear participants, dear Your Excellencies, dear ambassadors, thanks for this opportunity to participate in this great event. Our association, Kazakh Green, we position ourselves as a single platform for united all investors, players, all stakeholders in Kazakhstan, like investors, producers of equipment, design institutes, and so on. So our main goal is to improve investment climate for renewable energy sector. My personal experience is more than 10 years in this sector. So today we have very strong members as, for example, ENI, EBRD, Kazmunaygaz national operator. I would like to say that even oil and gas companies started to be interested in this renewable energy sector in last years. Okay, next slide. You know, I don't want to go through slides because it will be too long. I'd like to say the main bullet points which could be interested for all participants. Kazakhstan has the evolutionary development of renewable energy. So the first law was implemented in 2009, but unfortunately the mechanism which was in 2009 was not feasible, and the real development of renewable energy started in 2014 when feed-in tariff mechanism was implemented. And from 2014 until 2018, this mechanism gave the start of development renewable energy sector. From 2018, the auction system was launched in Kazakhstan, which is very successfully showed the really good opportunities for all companies for the world to participate in the auctions. And for example, about 200 companies from 13 countries from the world participated in these auctions. And today we have in Kazakhstan more than 130 projects of renewable energy. It's more than 2.5 gigawatt of installed capacity. So Kazakhstan has ambitious goals. Next slide, please. In 2013, we would like to achieve 15%. In 2050, we are going to achieve 50%. And in 2060, just in this year, our president signed the strategy of achieving the carbon neutrality until 2060. And in 2060, we are going to generate 80% of clean energy. Today, we can assure that it is very possible for Kazakhstan to achieve 15% until 2030. Please, next slide. We have the legal base for development of renewable energy in Kazakhstan. Please, next slide. So you can see these projects which are already operating in Kazakhstan. But of course, we have a lot of problems. The first problem and the main problem, it's a shortage of flexible capacity in Kazakhstan. Historically, Kazakhstan has the coal generation. Today, 70% from the total generation is a coal generation. And from Soviet Union, historically, Kazakhstan was as a base load generation. And other Central Asia countries like Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan was like flexible capacity generation with hydropower plants. So that's why we have the biggest coal power plants in the region. And one of the reasons for that, because we have the coal, which is easy for mining, open mining coal. And the biggest problem for Kazakhstan, it's the cheapest energy in the world, the cheapest price for energy in the world. For example, I can say for you that I myself at home, I'm paying 3 euro cent per kilowatt hour. 3 euro cent. You can imagine. It's the biggest problem for Kazakhstan. That's why we couldn't develop our energy system. It means we couldn't make modernization, reconstruction of grid. We couldn't make modernization of other power plants. That's why the owners of current power plants couldn't invest to their assets to modernize, to make some ecological improvement. And we don't have any relationship, market relationship in our sector in Kazakhstan, because government hold the tariff. It's government afraid to make an open market because it's a social tension, could be social tension. In the end of this problem, in the end of all problems in this energy sector, in the end of problems of tariffs, it's a social tension and income of population. That's why renewable energy sector face these problems. And for example, everybody knows that 5 years ago, the capex for renewable energy was very high. And 10 years ago, when we started first projects, people told us that we are crazy, that we are trying to do some renewable projects with so big capexes for such big tariff in Kazakhstan when we have such cheap coal generation. But today, when the capex for renewable energy is much cheaper than coal, gas, any other traditional generation, it's okay. It's good for us, for renewable energy projects, to start the construction of renewable energy. But the problem, again, flexible capacity. Kazakhstan has a problem with balancing energy. Today, we are completely dependent from Russian Federation with regards to balancing energy. We don't have balancing energy. Why? Because coal generation. Coal generation is not flexible generation. The flexible generation is gas power plants and big hydropower plants. What could be a solution for this? The solution could be, first of all, development of gas power plants, big hydropower plants, or one of the best solutions, it's transnational grid. It could be transnational grid between our brother countries, between Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan. Good example, Nord Pool in Europe. 16 countries in one system. They help each other. There is wind in Denmark. There is no wind in Belgium. It's helping each other. There is a cable with DC cable between UK and between Germany. They help each other just for balancing. Last year, we had a big problem in Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan between our grid. And okay, it shows us that it could be such big problems. So we should have one system operator for Central Asia. As a brother countries, as a countries which is helping, especially for energy sector. And if we would have such operator, system operator for Central Asia, we can develop renewable energy as much as we want. Because, okay, as I told in the beginning of my speech, Kazakhstan has evolutionary development of renewable energy, but Uzbekistan has revolutionary, because they started only last year, but they already have the same volume as Kazakhstan. But but I'm sure they will face the problem with flexible capacity again, because not Kazakhstan, not Uzbekistan doesn't have so much gas for flexible capacity. okay, we will have for next 5 years. Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan we will have for 5 years. But what we will do in the future? Because as Excellency Mr. Ambassador told, we have good demography in Kazakhstan. It's good for Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan because we have the growth of population. It's good for our population. I'm very glad. But this population, our next generation, they will need more and more electricity consumption. And for this, we need to balance this energy, this renewable energy. We don't have any chance just to have one grid for Central Asia. So it could be a good solution, transnational grid. So one of the support of European Union for Central Asia could be help to develop such transnational system for Central Asia. It could be really big support. Okay. Okay, Marat, that's all for now.
Nurlan, if I may, first, thank you very much for coming in person to enrich this conference. Second, everyone, as you can see, we are now really getting into the substance, into the heart of the matter of the, not just words such as challenges that we communicators and political figures sort of see, but the actual experts in the industry explain about the actual challenges on the ground, yeah, and how we have to work for it. And indeed also put forward a few messages for our friends from the European institutions about how they can assist and how, you know, we can work together with this region. So Nurlan Kapenov, I will try to give all speakers as much opportunity throughout the conference, and we will try to have Q&A as well, but that's a really excellent intervention. And now, Leo, we again turn to the virtual space, and we now have a representative of the Republic of Kyrgyzstan who should be online and ready to deliver a brief intervention on behalf of Kyrgyzstan. And that is, of course, Almazbek Tuganbaev from the Department of Energy Efficiency and Development of Renewable Energy in the Ministry of Energy of Kyrgyzstan. Some of the speakers will deliver their interventions in the Russian language. So please bear in mind if people are not conversant in Russian, there are headsets here at the front, so you can grab those. And I believe Mr. Tuganbaev will deliver his presentation in Russian. But let's see if he's there. He should be there. No, okay. So we have a little technical glitch with connection with Mr. Tuganbaev. We'll bring him back later during the course of the panel, hopefully. Can I maybe then, Ambassador Palvanov, would you like to come and intervene, make your short intervention now in your expert hat, wearing your hat as an expert on Turkmenistan, and if I can ask you to stand at the podium to deliver an intervention. Now, as the ambassador actually mentioned in his opening remarks, I mean, we do associate Turkmenistan rightly as a major gas producer, major gas exporter, and therefore major conventional energy player in that context. But we do not tend to associate Turkmenistan with alternative forms of energy. And this is a shame because the government, the country is doing a great deal to work towards the development of alternative energy. And I believe the ambassador wants to play just a short video. I believe there's a short video to be shown, a 2-3 minute video, and then a brief intervention. So Leo, if I can ask you to play the video, please, and then the ambassador will just explain, because I think this is quite an intriguing project. It is to do with the inauguration of a sustainable city in Turkmenistan. Some of you may be familiar with Masdar, Masdar Energy, big company in the UAE, of course. So when Masdar first started, it was, purported to be developing a sustainable sort of, little Mintakat, as they say in Arabic, neighborhood of Abu Dhabi, which grew into a much bigger project. But in Turkmenistan, we also have these sort of initiatives, and I think it's very important for this sort of audience to have some exposure to these sort of projects. So if we can have the video, that would be great. Okay, if you can maybe just, start and then the video will come on. Please, Ambassador.
It's a good opportunity for me to send a message of Turkmenistan. And today, I'm going to start my speech by the video. It's a very short video regarding the new inaugurated city just recently, 4 days ago. It's named it's Arkadaş city. It's a smart and eco-friendly city, and yes, it's a very short. This momentous event serves as a practical demonstration of Turkmenistan's unwavering commitment to the use of sustainable and clean energy. This city embodies the concept of a smart city and adheres to an environmentally conscious approach at every stage, from the production of construction materials to the operation of its facilities. The integration of cutting-edge technologies such as smart homes, intelligent traffic systems, water and energy conservation measures, energy efficiency, green transportation options, and advanced video surveillance equipped with accident and emergency detection sensors truly sets this city apart. Moreover, these services and amenities are designed to be accessible to all members of the community, with special consideration for individuals with disabilities also. It's worth noting that this city was built from scratch in the foothill of Köpetağ mountain, allowing for the seamless implementation of every aspect of smart and eco-friendly city. And our specialists, they could implement all elements of the smart city and eco-friendly city consumption. Spanning an impressive area of about 1,000 hectares, this city is designed to accommodate about 70,000 residents. Currently, 368 residential buildings have been constructed in the first phase. It's a first phase, with construction for the second phase already underway. It started. With the two phase, it will be about 500 buildings there. In this completed stage, essential buildings have been erected to cater to the needs of every resident, from administrative divisions to the medical and the sports facilities. This city offers a comprehensive range of amenities necessary for fulfilling life. And it's inaugurated just 4 days ago in Turkmenistan. And I just want to mention that it was constructed by only Turkmen construction companies, no foreign companies there. Construction just, but we implemented foreign companies for IT solutions, for implementing some new elements of smart cities. And this city is open for international investment, because it's new for Turkmenistan, and it will be like a pilot project. And if it goes smoothly, we are going to continue implement in other cities also of Turkmenistan. With this video, I wanted to send the message that Turkmenistan is moving towards the green life. And just shortly, let me try to identify some specific areas for international investments in a green direction. The production of solar and hydrogen energy. Production of solar and hydrogen energy is a topical issue on the energy agenda of Turkmenistan. And it's no coincidence. Turkmenistan experiences around 300 sunny days each year, with the duration of sunny days reaching an impressive 2,500 to 300 hours. This abundance of sunlight provides a unique opportunity for harnessing solar energy. In order to reinforce the activities carried out in developing renewable energy, the law of Turkmenistan on renewable energy was enacted in 2021. This legislation regulates the legal relations throughout the entire process, from the production of renewable energy and attracting foreign investment. Here, I'd like to mention another document, the National Strategy for the Developing of Renewable Energy of Turkmenistan until 2030, that encourages relevant government institutions to promote an agenda on renewable energy. By listing these documents, I'm creating awareness about the availability of a favorable platform for establishing business relations with international partners. Currently, within the practical implementation of these strategies, the construction of a combined solar and a wind power plant in Turkmenistan with a total capacity of 10 megawatts is underway. Also, the Turkmen Energy Corporation of Turkmenistan has planned to build solar power plants with a capacity of over 6 megawatts in remote settlement across the country. This initiative will not only contribute to the production of clean energy, but also create opportunities for economic development in these areas. Furthermore, Turkmenistan is home to one of the largest sandy deserts in the world, Karakum Desert. This desert contains silicon, a common semiconductor material that can absorb sunlight and convert it into electrical energy. The availability of silicon in Turkmenistan positions the country favorably for the production of solar panels, making it an ideal location for advancing solar photovoltaics. The environmental advantages of the solar photovoltaics are significant when compared to other alternative methods of obtaining electrical energy. The production of modern solar panels primarily requires silicon, which Turkmenistan possesses in abundance. Silicon oxides, that is quartz sands with a high content of coloring oxides, are concentrated into two deposits of Turkmenistan, where the balance reserve is estimated at almost 83 million tons. With significant deposits of quartz sands, Turkmenistan has the potential to contribute to the global adoption of solar energy. With this, I'd like to underline that there is a huge uncovered the opportunity for foreign investments, for solar panel production. In addition to solar energy, Turkmenistan recognized the importance of hydrogen energy in addressing global ecological and climate challenges. As the fourth largest holder of natural gas reserves, Turkmenistan is strategically positioned to develop hydrogen energy because more than 70% of hydrogen production comes from the natural gas, making it the most cost-effective method. We can call hydrogen the fuel of the future. To fully embrace the potential of hydrogen energy, Turkmenistan aims to establish an industry infrastructure, including the organization of industrial production, storage, and transportation networks. An interagency working group will be formed to make decisions and coordinate efforts in this area, seeking the consultations with the global leaders in the hydrogen energy. Turkmenistan is committed to fostering constructive cooperation with foreign partners in the pursuit of the alternative energy. It has identified alternative energy as a priority in its national energy strategy. By capitalizing on its abundant solar resources and the natural gas reserves, Turkmenistan is determined to play a significant role in shaping a sustainable and a clean energy future. Thank you for your attention. Just with my speech, I wanted to give you a message that Turkmenistan started to move towards the development of green energy in Turkmenistan. Thank you. Thank you for your attention.
Ambassador, thank you. And indeed, this is a core message. Indeed, this is a core reason for why we're gathered actually here today, to look at the whole big picture of the past, the present, and the future when it comes to Central Asian energy landscape. So now I would actually like to invite Aziz Khamidov, excellent, to join us from Tashkent, Uzbekistan, from the Ministry of Trade, Investment and Industry of Uzbekistan. He's the head of the Department of Energy and Chemistry. Aziz Khamidov has a great deal of experience actually in the international context. He's worked in Brussels, he's worked internationally, he's connected to Oxford University. So he's really one of this up and coming new generation of experts and perhaps decision makers in the future in Uzbekistan. So Aziz, very warm welcome. I'd like to just broaden the discussion in a sense now and move on forward to Uzbekistan and just ask you, tell us a little bit about the strategy of the country for developing the renewable energy sector, if you can make an intervention in that respect, and also tell us about what you're doing to actually attract investment. What are the gold nuggets here to unlocking investor interest in Uzbekistan? Please, Aziz, the floor is yours and you're very welcome.
Thank you, Marat. Good afternoon, dear participants, colleagues, and distinguished guests. It's a pleasure to speak here in Brussels Energy Club. Coming back to your question, Marat, I think I will start with the overall overview of the power sector in Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan is a major electricity producer in the Central Asia, with a total installed capacity exceeding 17 gigawatts and generating over 75 terawatts of our electricity per year. The electricity generation in Uzbekistan is exclusively based on natural gas. We have to admit that. And the hydropower represents a small percentage of the total generation, with other renewables accounting for less than 1% of the consumption. But the demand for electricity in Uzbekistan is growing by 7% annually. And our strategy is to increase installed power capacity from 17 gigawatts in 2023 to 40 gigawatts in 2030. This is our target. And more than 12 gigawatts of which shall be provided by renewable energy facilities. And the share of the electricity produced from the renewable energy sources shall be 25% by 2026, with the simultaneous reduction of greenhouse emissions of 35% by 2030 compared to 2010. And it's a big decline in the annual natural gas consumption by 3 billion cubic meters by 2026. It also allows us to comply with the Paris Agreement commitments for the reduction of the CO2 emissions. We strongly believe that these ambitious goals can be achieved through deploying the private sector participation in the power sector. As you might hear, that the first industrial scale solar PV project was launched in 2019. We built the first 100 megawatts solar PV with the Masdar. Then we had at the same time the French Total, who built a beautiful PV power plant in Samarkand. And currently we have another projects with the Masdar for the 900 megawatts that are planned to be commissioned by the end of this year. And also the Masdar and the Saudi Aqua Power launched last year a construction of 1.6 gigawatts of utility scale wind farms. And we have also a number of projects coming in the current and the next years. We have a very massive renewable program. But at the same time, as it was rightly mentioned by my colleague from Kazakhstan, Mr. Kapenov, we need to address this, our common challenge regarding the balancing the electricity supplies, and those we need to encourage the inter-regional cooperation in electricity sector with our neighbors. It will help us to balance supply and demand of electricity. And we actively and closely working with the World Bank, who facilitates the first Central Asia regional electricity market interconnectivity and trade project. Basically, this is the pilot trading platform, which we are keen to launch together. If we talk about the opportunities for investors and what we did to bring the investors to the country, I would say number of reforms has been done, a lot of work, a lot of hard work has been done by the stakeholders and the government. The certain important policy reforms have been carried out in order to accelerate the private investments in the power sector and start Uzbekistan transition toward renewable energy. This definitely include the enactment of the laws on investments on the renewable energies and PPP law. The enactment of these laws plays a crucial role in attracting the private investors. Basically, it helps to provide a clear legal framework for private investors who engage in renewable energy projects. It establishes the rule, rights, and obligations of all the parties involved, creating a predictable and stable environment for the investment. What else? And definitely, this legal certainty reduces risks and enhances investor confidence, encouraging the private entities to participate in public-private partnership opportunities. And all these processes are very fair, equal, and transparent. And it allows for investors to make a firm decision-making investing in the country. By instilling this confidence and fairness and openness, the law help attract the private investors who seek a really level playing field, and they get it. And secondly, we also began overhauling the taxation reforms from 2018 and the custom systems to improve the country's investment climate. For instance, the enterprises attracting foreign direct investments are exempted from the property tax, land tax, water usage tax, and customs duties up to 7 years based on the level of the investments they do. Moreover, the renewable energy producers are exempt from paying the property tax and the land tax for the period of the 10 years from the start of operation of the renewable energy installations. And thirdly, in 2019, we have established the Foreign Investment Council, its advisory board under the President of Uzbekistan, to communicate the expectations and needs of the private sector to the government and help build a non-discriminatory and competitive business environment in the country. It serves as a think tank, I would say, that identifies the barriers to the investment inflow and reviews the relevant legal and regulatory acts. It also assesses draft legislation against the risks for increasing the impediments to economic development. I think this is all from my side. I hope to briefly sharing our success story in attracting the private investors into the renewables sector in Uzbekistan. Thank you very much.
Aziz, thank you very much for that intervention, for that sort of overview, and for pointing to some of the investors like Aqua Power from Saudi Arabia. In fact, Mehmet ÖİTÇÜ also mentioned Saudi investors coming into the region. Thanks very much for that intervention. We'll have more on Uzbekistan after the lunch, and perhaps also in the next panel. But now perhaps I could just slightly move along and invite some of our international friends and colleagues, and maybe I can invite Thomas Schleker from the European Commission to tell us a little bit about the projects that you're developing with the region, particularly with small-scale hydro. I believe you might have a few slides. So please, Thomas, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marat, for the kind introduction and for the invitation to this panel. So, the excellencies and colleagues in the clean energy transition, I'm talking about what we do in Horizon 2020 at this case, but in generally in the research innovation program. So I'm policy officer in DG Research and Innovation, where we look at research and then upscale of innovative technologies. And specifically, I'm responsible there for the hydropower portfolio. And I'm waiting for the slides, but I'm talking to you on one specific project we have, the Hydro4U project, which is implemented by a demonstration call called Demonstration of Innovative and Sustainable Hydropower Solutions Targeting Unexplored Small-Scale Hydropower Potential in Central Asia. So why we have this specific topic targeting Central Asia, which is not very usual in, let's say, our framework program, as most of the topics have rather a thematic focus. So now you have here a specific geographical focus. I mean, this builds upon that the European hydropower technology industry is very strong also in providing sustainable hydropower solutions. And as Ambassador Erkin mentioned, also hydropower and other speakers, hydropower has an important role, can play an important role in Central Asia, and it links, as Special Representative Hakala mentioned, to the specific let's say, action in the EU strategy for Central Asia on making available EU technologies and renewable energies. So we can go directly to the next slide. So the specific challenge here was indeed to target unexploited small-scale hydropower potential. So we focus on small-scale hydropower. This is also because we have really a very high sustainability requirements, both in socioeconomic sustainability as well as in environmental sustainability. And it should contribute to the specific water management challenges of the region. So provide a forward-looking water, food, energy, climate nexus concept. The expected impact is, of course, to contribute to providing sustainable solutions for international cooperation, also in line with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So sustainability is really key here, and also to have a win-win situation also in respect of European hydropower technology, which can be implemented there. Now, I acknowledge these slides are kindly provided by actually the Hydro4U project, which was selected by this demonstration call. So these are the slides of the project, and you will have the contact details later on. So please, if you have more technical questions, please contact directly the project. So this is coordinated. As you see, it was launched in June 21 and goes until 26, so it's still at an early project phase. It has around 10 partners, also with Central Asian partners. The project is actually coordinated by the Technical University in Munich and has a total budget of 11.5 million euros with an EU contribution close to 10 million euros. Now, what is the project about? It is first a mapping also about the potential of possible small hydropower sites. So an inventory is built up, and then 2 demonstration solutions are actually proposed. So here we are talking about really demonstration in the field, which will also be implemented in the project. And in addition, after, it is also foreseen to really provide possible solutions for replication of these sustainable solutions, and citizen as well as stakeholder involvement are important part also in this work program. Here is actually one of the 2 solutions which is supposed to be implemented. So this is a shaft power plant, which is applicable to low head hydropower, and you see it falls very well with the power output in the category of small hydropower with up to 2 megawatt, and is, as I said, for low head from 2 to 12 meters here designed, and this is foreseen to be implemented in a site in Kyrgyzstan. So important here is actually the aim is to implement this packaged solution in actually an existing infrastructure, also to fulfill the strong sustainability requirements underlying the topic. So this is still in the planning phase. The second one is actually, so the second big demonstration is a Francis container solution. This is for higher head, so up to 130 meters, and also small scale, so up to 1 megawatt. And this is currently, to my knowledge, in construction in Uzbekistan, but will also be installed in existing infrastructure. And very important here is also the socioeconomic benefit by providing really decentralized power supply solution. You see it has a foreseen power output of 2 megawatts. And here, as I mentioned, I acknowledge again for the slides the project, and you are invited to follow the project, and you will then be updated on the future developments. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thomas, thank you very much for that. That was really a very good intervention, and showing clearly some of the work that the European Union is doing, and we can of course discuss later. So now I'd like to continue with our program, everyone, and just to try to kind of synthesize this panel. Next, I would like to invite another online speaker from Kazakhstan, in fact, and that is Miss Aliya Shalabekova, who I see there online. Now, Aliya is the head of low carbon development department at KMG National Company. So that's a very big company in Kazakhstan. Ms. Shalabekova is, of course, former vice minister, by the way, in Kazakhstan of energy ecology. So very, very experienced sort of individual. And Ms. Shalabekova, I believe, yes, has a presentation, which is great. And I would like to ask her, to facilitate the presentation, a little bit about KMG's plans. I believe you're planning to commission something like 300 megawatts, quite substantial capacity of renewable energy by 2030. It's quite an ambitious target, I think. So I would like to ask you how you see the role of renewable energy in Kazakhstan's, and in fact in KMG's energy mix in the foreseeable years, and how you see the role of renewables more broadly. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excellencies, the distinguished guests, dear colleagues. On behalf of Kazmunaygaz, I would like to welcome all of you at this event and thank organizers for inviting us. Kazmunaygaz is a leading vertically integrated oil and gas company in Kazakhstan. In my presentation, I will talk about decarbonization efforts taken by KMG. Next slide, please.
slide, please, as well. Thank you.
Given the importance of climate agenda in support of the country goals to become carbon neutral by 2060 and to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 15% of the level of 1990, in 2021, Kazmunaygaz adopted the KMG low carbon development program until 2031. I would like to point out that our company was one of the first in Kazakhstan to approve the decarbonization paper. KMG aims to achieving a 15% reduction in carbon dioxide emissions by 2031 from the level of 2019 through reducing energy and carbon intensity of production and developing renewable energy sources. Next slide, please. Let me briefly outline the work we are doing on this direction. First, Kazmunaygaz envisages more than 300 measures at its subsidiaries and affiliates within the framework of energy efficiency and energy saving by 2031, such as improving thermal efficiency, developing gas generation, improving the efficiency of gas turbines, and etc. Their implementation will save more than 400 million kilowatt hours of electricity, around 300,000 gigacalories of thermal energy, and more than 500,000 tons of fuel equivalent for boilers and furnaces. Next slide, please. Under the second area of program, we are working on 4 main blocks of RES technology applications. These are megawatt class RES projects to supply power in our own enterprises. RES projects to use in the utility sector, RES projects embedded in the production cycle, and the purchase of green power through the current country-specific model to support the implementation of RES projects. Today, Kazmunaygaz, together with their partners, is working on implementing large-scale RES projects to produce green electricity, both for sale to a unified buyer and for all needs of its subsidiaries. And at this moment, KMG has started to develop a feasibility study of wind potential in Jambil and Mangostal regions, where wind farms with a total capacity of 1.12 gigawatts are to build. And according to your question, what we are going to do after 2031, we will continue our work to develop a RES project for own consumption and to support country to achieve the goal determined in national strategy of carbon neutrality. Next slide, please. Taking into account the development of new technologies and climate regulation, we are exploring additional decarbonization measures. First, we are working on capture, storage, and utilization system project. In this regard, the company, with the support of Chevron Corporation, is working on implementation of a pilot project in which reservoir studies are being conducted and the screening of concentrated CO2 emission sources are being completed. Second, to further enhance the capacities on the company's low carbon products. So this year, we initiated a project with EBRD technical support to investigate the prospects for producing a sustainable aviation fuel in Kazakhstan, both for our own market and internationally. Third, the electric vehicle market is developing dynamically around the world, including projected interest from Kazakhstani citizens. KMG looks at this promising area as a window of opportunity. Therefore, as part of building a portfolio of KMG's energy transition projects, we are considering the development of charging infrastructure for electric vehicles in Kazakhstan. To this end, we are conducting a feasibility study to assess the economic viability of the project. At the same time, this year, we want to implement a pilot project and install 100 electric charging stations with partial acquisition of electric vehicles at our producing assets. KMG pays special attention to climate risk management and adaptation to climate change. In this regard, This year, we launched the project with the support of the DoD to implement climate reporting in accordance with the recommendations of the Task Force on Climate-related financial disclosures. By the end of this year, the company will have developed a stress testing model for various climate scenarios and assess climate risk and opportunities, including their financial impact on KMG. Dear participants, as you can see, KMG facing certain challenges to decarbonize its own production and create a low-carbon product basket to keep the company competitive. Our company is open to cooperation for implementing mutually beneficial emission reduction, risk development, and other green projects. Once again, thank you for organizing this event.
Ms. Shalabekova, thank you very much. And I think important to point out that this is a former Vice Minister of Ecology of Kazakhstan actually addressing this topic. So someone very relevant in that context. So good news now. Let's go back to Kyrgyzstan because I believe we've actually found our Kyrgyz speaker to connect with us. And that, of course, is Almazbek Tuganbaev. If I can ask Leo to put him on screen, which I believe is being done now. And in fact, there he is. So Almazbek Tuganbaev, you're very welcome. Добро пожаловать. Если вам на русском языке предпочитаемо выступать, пожалуйста, можно на русском. We may have a presentation in the Russian language, everyone, and there is a headsets for everyone. Mr. Tuganbaev is, of course, Acting Head, Department of Energy Efficiency and Development of Renewable Energy Sources in Kyrgyzstan. So welcome, Добро пожаловать. The floor is yours. Tell us a little bit about the strategy of Kyrgyzstan towards renewable energy, and in particular, what role does hydro play, hydro energy, in the development of this sector? Слово вам. Добро пожаловать.
Да, спасибо большое. Здравствуйте, уважаемые участники форума. Уважаемые дамы и господа, позвольте поприветствовать от имени Министерства энергетики Кыргызской Республики и от себя лично и поблагодарить организаторов за организацию данного мероприятия. К 2030 году Кыргызстан поставил цель сократить выбросы парниковых газов на 44%. К 2050 году достичь углеродной нейтральности. При этом было отмечено, что локомотивом безуглеродной политики будут ВИА, в первую очередь гидроэнергетика. Принимая во внимание огромный водно-энергетический потенциал и потенциал ВИА в Кыргызской Республике. Кыргызская Республика обладает значительным потенциалом для всех технологий использования ВИА. В настоящий момент Министерство энергетики Кыргызской Республики работает над несколькими инициативами по преобразованию этого потенциала в ощутимое и значительное использование ВИА. В этой связи президентом Кыргызской Республики Садыром Джапаровым был подписан закон Кыргызской Республики о ВИА и принят парламентом Кыргызской Республики. Представленный закон включает в себя регулирование отношений, связанных с использованием ВИА, основные принципы государственной политики в области ВИА, экономические и организационно-правовые механизмы в области ВИА. Вышеуказанный закон Кыргызской Республики направлен на улучшение инвестиционной привлекательности в области ВИА. При этом новые технологии использования ВИА могут обеспечить конкурентоспособное энергоснабжение, снижая при этом негативное воздействие на окружающую среду и здоровье человека, открывая возможности всеобщего доступа к недорогим, надежным и устойчивым современным источникам различным категориям потребителям, что является одним из обязательств Кыргызской Республики по достижению целей Организации Объединенных Наций ООН в области устойчивого развития ВИА. Общий гидроэнергетический потенциал Кыргызской Республики составляет 142 миллиарда киловатт-час. В настоящее время процент освоения от общего потенциала составляет всего 10%. В этой связи Кыргызская Республика ставит задачи по привлечению инвестиций в данную отрасль. Вопросы развития и внедрения ВИА в энергосекторы страны выходят на первый план и являются важным условием развития экономики и конкурентоспособности в современном мире. В настоящее время за счет ВИА гидроресурсов крупными ГЭС в Кыргызстане вырабатывается свыше 90% электрической энергии. При этом развитие ВИА также способствует укреплению энергетической безопасности страны, в частности, в маловодные климатические циклы для отдаленных регионов. Как известно, вопрос изменения климата является одним из основных современных вызовов, который ставит под угрозу производство продовольствия, энергетическая безопасность и увеличивает риск природных катастроф. Если не предпринять решительных действий сегодня, то последующая адаптация к изменению климата потребует больших усилий и затрат. Достижение баланса с целями устойчивого развития и одновременное решение проблем, связанных с изменением климата и динамикой энергетического сектора, является сложной задачей. В этой связи национальные директивные органы понимают важность решения этой надвигающей проблемы. Для предотвращения таких последствий и содействия международным усилиям по борьбе с изменением климата инициируются планы и программы по смягчению рисков и адаптации к новым условиям. В настоящее время начата работа по проведению исследований для разработки модели на долгосрочную перспективу о влиянии изменения климата на гидрологию и энергетический сектор Кыргызской республики. Кыргызская республика всегда выступала и выступает за конструктивный диалог со всеми заинтересованными странами по достижению взаимовыгодных решений и призывает к развитию устойчивого сотрудничества в сфере ВИА. В завершении хотелось бы выразить благодарность всем участникам форума, пожелать плодотворной работы и конструктивных дискуссий. Спасибо.
Thank you very much. Большое спасибо, Рахмет, господин Туганбаев. Большое вам спасибо. Отличное качество звука, тоже отличная интервенция. So everyone, we are moving towards the end of this really action-packed sort of first panel, and this is just the beginning, you know, I mean, this is really continuing, but I'm really pleased now to offer the floor for an intervention to Pierre Tardieu from WindEurope, of course, which is a major association here in Europe. You should have been at their summer reception last week. It was one of the biggest and fantastic receptions I've been to. But in all respects, Pierre, you know, the wind sector, it's fairly novel in Central Asia. It's very much a novelty. In Europe, it's not exactly a novelty, I would say. It's you know, probably you can say becoming very much part of the mainstream, you know, both in terms of energy supply and power generation. So if we can think in the context, if you can maybe kind of think out loud, what have been some of the highlights of the development of the wind sector in Europe? What have been some of the success stories? What have been some of the government incentives, let's say, that have facilitated this success? And what lessons might that offer us for Central Asia, for the development of the wind sector in Central Asia? Pierre Tardieu, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot, Marat, and very happy to be sharing a little bit the perspective of the wind sector here this morning. It's been really good to hear about sustainable hydro, to hear about solar, which obviously both have a phenomenal potential. On wind specifically, I wanted to start exactly how you framed it, Marat, that wind in Europe is no longer an alternative form of energy. It's really part of the mainstream. It's really part of the core of Europe's energy system today. So if you look at the EU 27 plus UK, wind is 17% of all the electricity that we consume. And in major economies, so in Spain, Germany, the UK, it's already more than a quarter. Not to mention, of course, Denmark, which is the global leader with 55% here. So what this means is that not only is wind energy at the core of Europe's climate action strategy, it's also at the core of our energy security strategy and our economic competitiveness strategy. Yeah, and you can see this. You don't need to take my word for it. The economic competitiveness point. Just look at the various energy sectors, various sectors of the economy across the boards that are now signing contracts directly with wind projects in order to secure energy at a very low and stable price. We even see major chemicals players such as BASF investing directly in generation assets, such as offshore wind farms in partnership, for example, with the big utility Vattenfall. So that's the first starting point. Here's where we are essentially. Wind becoming mainstream and winds ultimately becoming basically half of all the electricity we consume down the line. So how did we get here? Would be the second question that you asked. I think it's important to do a little bit of history here. How did we get to an industry that, you know, employs 300,000 people across Europe, builds state-of-the-art technology? Yeah, it took a lot of patience, a lot of work, and the right regulatory framework, which initially started with a combination of three things, I would say. Clear targets, right? So we started with a renewable electricity directive and then a major renewable energy directive, which said, look, by 2020, the EU needs 20% of renewable energy in its system. And if you drill down to electricity, you need a much higher share because it's much easier to decarbonize electricity than other bits of the energy system. So that was the first thing, targets, which then drove clear national plans, auction schedules, etc. First element. Second element, of course, giving a clear investment signal, and that in the first instance came in the form of a feed-in tariff. Very clear, stable. You produce wind power, you connect to the grid, you will get, say, 100 euros per megawatt hour that you produce. And then, of course, the third point, which went along with that, was priority injection into the grid, so priority dispatch. We've now moved much further down the line in a completely different environment where wind really stands on its own 2 feet. There are merchant investments in Northern Europe, so with no subsidies whatsoever. In Sweden, in Finland, merchant investments in offshore wind in the Netherlands. And what has really driven this has been technology developments and efforts in terms of system integration. So developing the grid, becoming more mature at integrating renewables into the system. All of which means that now wind is essentially, with solar, the most competitive form of power generation. So much, much cheaper in Europe than other forms of energy. Yeah. So what can be drawn from this in terms of developing a policy for renewables in Central Asia and attracting investments? I think again here there are three things stemming from the lessons that we've learned here in Europe. One, I would say, is give a clear direction of travel, set the targets, set the regulatory framework, and make sure that investors know exactly what to expect. There's a rule in the EU whereby national governments have to set an auction schedule of 3 to 5 years in advance, and that has proven extremely effective at driving the investments and making sure that the supply chain is in place. The second, and this is one area where we're still need to make progress in Europe, is to sort out all the permitting, the administrative processes that come along with renewables projects. And here maybe Central Asia can a little bit leapfrog all the problems that the EU has had. And the main driver for that is really digitalization, making sure that these processes are automated, that they're transparent, that they're clear, that governments, stakeholders, and investors know exactly where they stand in the queue, in the processes, etc. And finally, and I think I'd like to come back to a point that you were making a little bit earlier, which is all about grids, grid planning. We know in Europe that in fact, 40% of our grid is 40 years or older, so we need to continue constantly making investments in the grid. And I think this is something that is relevant worldwide and certainly for Central Asia. Interconnecting is something that is extremely important and potent when it comes to integrating variable renewables. And the key here, I think, when planning ahead, is really to make the anticipatory investments to basically plan jointly renewables development and grid development. And that really creates the necessary framework to really leverage the potential of renewables, which are, of course, good for the climate, but they're also good for energy security and ultimately for economic competitiveness.